Rambles, or Alci, host of Alci Rambles, and today we're going to be talking about quite a lot of things. If you've been paying attention to recent news in terms of politics, you know that Joe Biden has made himself out to be a complete fool yet again. Also, we have more news on Kanye. That's right, Kanye is coming out with a new album called God's Country, I believe. It's probably going to be another gospel album. There's no doubt about that at all. But I'm still excited for it. I'm a huge fan of Kanye. I've always been a giant fan of Kanye. And speaking of which, we're going to be talking a lot about him today, at least for most, if not the entire music portion. I'm going to mention real quick, however, I'm really excited for the Anderson .Paak project that's coming up. If you guys follow his Instagram at all, Joe Biden trademark, yeah. If you follow Anderson .Paak's Instagram at all and you've been joining his lives, he's been playing songs, saying what he's working on in the project. And this is one song, I think it's called Jewels, and he works on it with Timbaland. And oh my God, it sounds so good, and I want it right now. But I'll have to wait until that man is done. Back to Kanye, by the way. I've been a humongous fan of Kanye. Everybody who knows me personally knows that I'm a giant Kanye West fan. And I've always been this way since I was really young. But I didn't really start getting into him, looking at his work and analyzing it until I was maybe 13 years old, which is when I really started exploring the complexity of music, expanding my taste, and really learning about different genres and shit other than, like, you know, rap and hip-hop and stuff. So a lot of people like to say that, oh, Kanye changed. Kanye never changed. The only thing that changed was the game. And that's because, shut up, Matt, 4 or 5 seconds is not a Kanye song. That is because the game changes according to what Kanye wants. That's right, I'm making a claim as bold as that. Ever since Kanye burst on the scene, this man has influenced the entire rap game. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. And 808s is probably one of the most influential hip-hop albums of all time. Now, I like to take Kanye's discography and split it into 3 sections. And I'm going to explore that, get into the complexities of that. So, obviously, the first section is what I like to call the school saga because it's got college dropout, late registration, and graduation. All of these albums, every single one of them, talk about black empowerment, especially college dropout and late registration. He also mentions how rap can be made in a nonviolent fashion. You don't have to talk about guns, crime, sex, and glorifying violence just to make a good rap song. In fact, in the song Family Business, he says the words, I think he goes, I woke up early this morning with a new state of mind, a creative way to rhyme without using knives and guns. And I think that's a great line. That's all I'm saying. What else? College Dropout, when that came out, was an immediate classic. Like, immediately. Like, there's not a single bad song on it. Including the skits. I'd be listening to the skits of that shit. Lil Jimmy skit 1 and 2. Come on, forget about it. College Dropout also talked about how Kanye was coming up to become a rapper in the game. He was a producer for big names previously, mentored by No ID. He worked with Jay-Z and shit. Kanye album tier list soon. Dude, I could do that on, like, imagine I do that on the podcast. That'd be dope. I could actually. You know what? I might do that when I'm done when I'm done rambling. That's a good idea, Matt. Yeah, late registration is a continuation of College Dropout. It's just a more mature take of what he talked about in College Dropout, albeit it was more egotistical because he's gained all the fame. He talks about gold diggers and how much he despises them. And then you get to Graduation, which was the peak of his stardom. This is when Kanye was really, like, power tripping, going crazy. He was like, and he moved over to more commercialized songs. He took a more Lupe Fiasco move, and instead of, like, rapping about certain topics like black empowerment and stuff, which he still does, but he commercializes it. He wants to make stage anthems. He wants to make songs that people will sing and like dance to and stuff, because That's how Kanye sees himself. Now, as this closes out, you get to a more dark part of Kanye's life, which is why I dubbed the second part of his discography the downward spiral. Uh, Now, I don't mean that Kanye necessarily music has went down in quality, and that's why it's a downward spiral. No, it's to indicate how Kanye as a person begins to devolve and decay, and he just starts breaking down. He goes from an ambitious young man with big dreams to an egomaniac who lost his mind as a result of his surroundings. 808s was dedicated to his mother who had passed away. So you know that he was in his feels the entire time. It opens up immediately with Say You Will, with a haunting chorus that rings throughout the entire song, with electronic drums that ring in the background that go up and then down and then up and then down again. Or in Welcome to Heartbreak, where Kanye laments about missing out on normal life because he's famous and he doesn't get to experience what normal people do. So the entire album is as depressing as it possibly can get. But it was a blessing in disguise. Even though Kanye was in such a terrible time in his life, 808s was such an important thing for the entire rap industry because it saw the move to much more depressing emo rap, which is extremely popular. It was very popular a couple years back, and it's still pretty popular now. Where you had Kid Cudi, who first really did it, who took the influence straight from 808s, made his own shit, Man on the Moon 1 and 2, and then many other people took inspiration from that. Travis Scott, for example. Travis Scott was a huge Cudi fan who took lots of inspiration from him. You have other acts like, who else? X moved on to emo rap way later on, and you can see the influence from 808s, and 808s became the instrument. 808s became very popularized as a result of the album. Then you move into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is the second album off the Downward Spiral arc, and it is perhaps music's greatest triumph. Probably the greatest thing that ever happened ever, because it's so good. I don't know if y'all saw that, but the album was directly through the late night. The album followed several scandals surrounding Kanye, whether it was the Taylor Swift at the Grammys thing, or him breaking up with Amber Rose, which was his girlfriend at the time. After he had done this, he exiled himself to Hawaii, where he worked with a bunch of other artists day in and day out, and he only took like really short naps. Like, I'm talking really short naps. Like, he probably slept 3 hours a day on average through this entire time he was working on the album, and he put over 9,000 hours of work into the album, and it shows because the album is truly a masterpiece. Looks like my thing froze. Just give me a minute. I can fix this real quick. There you go. Exiled himself to Hawaii because he's faintly sees. That's funny. It froze for a bit. Nobody said anything. That's cool. I fixed it. But working on the album. So in the album Dark Fantasy, Kanye talks about the difficulties of fame, how he descends into madness because he can't really understand the world around him and how everything's changing. And he also talks more about black empowerment, police brutality, struggling with the limelight, and struggling to connect with other women as a result of being pushed away by people because he's become such a monster, basically. Then this all comes to a climax on Runaway, where it's basically Kanye's magnum opus. This is Kanye's greatest work. There's nothing that compares to Runaway because it's a Greek tragedy where Kanye takes the cliches of fame, power, fortune, sex, and removes the glamour from them, and he exposes the ugly truth. How, yes, it's pleasurable when it's happening, but after it's gone, what are you left with? Nothing. You're left with nothing. Fleeting emotions. That's what. The album shows Kanye as a vulnerable person, and he talks about his ex, how his arrogance affects his poor decisions, how insecure he is, and his immense sorrow about how he's just always involved in scandals and he can't seem to run away from them. And this trilogy ends with Yeezus, where Kanye throws everything out the window and says, "You know what? I'm throwing my hat back in the ring. We're gonna go straight for it." Kanye wants to join the fashion industry. He's always wanted to be part of the fashion industry. He's always been rocking polo since he was the beginning, and he's really wanted to join. I believe it was Ralph Lauren that he's always wanted to work part of, but he never got to. So he was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make my own fashion line, Yeezy. So, but he was constantly rejected because they were like, "How are you gonna do this? How is it possible that you are going to make stuff like this?" So because of this rejection, Kanye channels his rage through this album into the fashion industry, and he pours towards them. So you have On Sight, where he's just screaming and screaming, and Blood on the Leaves, and there's more themes of black empowerment, as it's always present in Kanye's discography, but Jesus takes a jab specifically at the fashion industry because he's just constantly rejected, and you can see the sound takes direct inspiration from groups like Death Grips. A lot of people like to claim that Death Grips bit their sound from Kanye, when in reality, Kanye bit his sound from Death Grips in this time. But he really popularized industrial rap, because industrial rap has always been around. You heard it in Mad Villainy with Madlib and MF Doom. That was like really the first popular sense of industrial rap, and then you have Death Grips coming in with more experimental versions of this industrial rap. But then Kanye was the first really big, already present artist who came out and said, "Check out these sounds. These are really heavy, metallic. They hit you hard, right?" And Kanye was really the first big artist to do this. So he really popularized that sound, and you still occasionally hear it. It's not that popular, but you do hear it with like up and coming acts like Lil Darky, if anyone's ever listened to it. He doesn't have an industrial sound, but his voice Lil actually screams like that. And even Tyler the Creator experimented with it a little bit. So then you get the third and final act, which is what I call the redemption arc, because Kanye seeks redemption in the eyes of the people, but every time he tries, he's kicked down because of more controversies that happen. So the world sees Kanye with distaste, because he's made out to be a villain in the eyes of the industry. The Life of Pablo sees Kanye returning to gospel-influenced music that he showed in like College Dropout, and he raps about finding God, accepting his fame for who he is, addressing the Taylor situation in a distasteful manner, expressing his love for himself, finding the real people in his life and keeping them close, as well as addressing how grateful he is for the people that he loves. The album shows an egomaniac slowly shifting from a more vulnerable man, and this expanded greatly on Ye, which is the second album on this trilogy, right? So Ye is probably Kanye's most vulnerable since he was on 808s, because he comes out and says, "Guys, look, I'm mentally ill. I've been struggling with my emotions for these years. I have bipolar disorder." And it's even the cover of the album. You can see it right here. Did I point the wrong way? Yeah, no, it's right here. Boom. See? Look at that. Yeah. He comes out, "I'm bipolar, guys." And instead of trying to push that away, he really accepts it as a part of himself. He almost glorifies mental illness. And I thought about killing you. It shows how abnormal his thoughts are, and he accepts it as part of himself rather than saying, "This is how I should feel." He says, "This is how I do feel, and I'm not afraid to let you guys see it." He's insane, basically. Not actually, but he's ill, and it shows. Then you see Yikes, where Kanye just loses his mind. He embraces his mania. He raves about the... I can't have peace in this house for 5 minutes, bro. There's a sign on my door that says "Don't come in," and people just still bust in. But you have Yikes, where he's raving about the media and how everyone's trying to control him. And then from All Mine, Wouldn't Leave, No Mistakes, you have Kanye expressing his love for his family and how he wouldn't be anything without him. And then this all comes to a climax on like Ghost Town, which is a song that's artistically similar to Runaway. You could legit make the argument that this is one of, if not Kanye's most brilliant song ever, because you have Cudi coming in and he represents the lows of bipolar depression, which is depression. It's the real lows. And then you have 070 Shake come in, and she sings, and she represents the highs of it, which is mania. And that's why 070 goes, oh, I put my hand on the stove to see if I still bleed, and nothing hurts anymore, because that's what mania does. And my camera's gone again. Give me a minute. And that's what mania does. You make reckless decisions, you feel like you can't really be affected by consequences, and you hear it in the instruments too, where the guitars and the lasers have more energy than when Cudi is singing. And Cudi is just talking about anxiety and how hopeless everything is. And then when Kanye starts rapping, it's the in-between state. He's dealing with the consequences of his depressed state, and he's also dealing with the consequences of his manic state. He's dealing with, oh, I pushed everyone away. I can't believe it. Yeah, I know. I just... Let's see. There you go. But yeah. He's like, oh, I've pushed everyone away. No one will ever treat me the same again. To, oh my God, I've done all these horrible things as a result of my mania. And Kanye's just coming to terms with it. Until the song is continued on a separate album, which is Kids See Ghosts, which is under the song Free, otherwise known as Ghost Town Part 2. This is when the mania reaches an absolute high. Kanye and Cudi have abandoned all semblances of the depression, have finally accepted themselves. We are manic people, we are ill. And they're, again, glorifying it. They're not saying, listen, you guys can't control me anymore. I am the way I am, and there's no way you can change me. They start yell singing. They detail their liberation from their illness, and they finally accept who they are. Now, as of now, the final album of the arc is Jesus is King. Kanye has fully accepted God as the one above. The one above. It is his only solace, and he learns to appreciate all he has. He calls out the media for demonizing him and his family, and he calls on his friends to appreciate what they have, and seemingly, Kanye is finally happy with himself and who he is. This is more than an artistic journey for Kanye. This is Kanye finding out who he is in life, how to overcome the trials and tribulations. That was my Kanye rambling, you know. I spent a while just analyzing his songs, and I could go into deeper, more intricate views of his songs, but I tried to keep it as quick as possible because I didn't want to bore everyone. But Matt Hoy brought up a great opinion or suggestion earlier, and he said that I should make a Kanye album tier list. So let's do that real quick. I think we should do that. Let me see if I can get a tier list thing up. I'm definitely not gonna have it on on the stream. I'll just tell you how I rank them and why I rank them this way. So let's see. Okay, this is all his albums right now. So this is including the albums he did as collaborations, and also the compilation album he made with the Good Music label. I don't know why that was so difficult for me. But we're gonna start. The first album we have here is Dark Fantasy, which is an easy S tier, and you really cannot argue with that at all. At all. There's no way you can argue. Now I'm gonna rank these based on how they are compared to each other. My camera froze. Just give me a minute. I'm comparing them all to each other. I'm not saying, oh yeah, this is an S compared to every other song in the industry, right? I'm just saying this is Kanye's discography, and this is how it matches up against his other discography. So the next thing we have is Cruel Summer, which was the compilation album. And I would put that probably in D tier. And the reason why is it's not really a Kanye album, and also there's not really that many memorable songs. Like the songs that are remembered in the album, you really do remember. It's really good. But there's only 3, 4, or maybe even 5 songs out of the 12 or so songs on it, which is not that much. It's not that good. The next thing we have is Kids See Ghosts, which is another S tier. It is an artistic high for Kanye. It literally rivals the greatness of Dark Fantasy. If Kids See Ghosts was longer, maybe had more songs, more detail into it, I think it would be a better album than Dark Fantasy, in my opinion. And that's coming from me, who fucking holds Dark Fantasy as the greatest album of all time. So that says a lot about Kids See Ghosts. I'm a huge fan of it. There's not a single skip on Kids See Ghosts. It opens up with Feel the Love. Really weird, awesome, definitely cool vibe. I think the album cover art is awesome for it too. Then you got Fire, which is amazing guitars, the screaming in the background. You have Cudi rapping in a really low voice. You have Fourth Dimension, which takes a really old sample. No, I'm making the tier list right now, Matt. All I have right now is Dark Fantasy is S tier, Cruel Summer is D tier, and Kids See Ghosts is another S tier. So you have Reborn, Kids See. The Cudi montage is probably my favorite song because he uses the Kurt Cobain guitar sample, which is, oh my god, it's heavenly. Now moving on, we have Life of Pablo. Now I've always struggled with Life of Pablo, because I really do fucking love it. It's such a good album. But I feel like it's bloated at times. There's a lot of songs that don't need to be on it. Lowlights and highlights, I don't really remember them that much. Freestyle 4, too. There's a bunch of songs on it that make you think, oh shit, that's a Kanye song. But the highs on the album are so high that it's good enough to make Life of Pablo an A tier. You have Ultralight Beam, Father Stretch My Hands Part 1, Famous, Feedback, FML, Real Friends, Wolves, 30 Hours, No More Parties, Facts, Fade, St. Pablo. Those are all amazing songs. And then you got the couple, you have the skits, obviously, but then you also have a couple of the not as good ones. Next we have Ye. Ye could have been better. A lot of people tend to say Ye is really, really amazing, right? Ye is so good. Ye is not that good. I'm sorry to break it to you. There's a couple songs on it. It's really artistically good, but Ye isn't really a standout album. The highs on it are high, for sure. But it's just too mediocre, honestly. I thought About Killing You's interesting concept. Not one that really works in terms of you want to listen to it, you want to listen to Kanye, and this is awesome. You're not going to listen to it. Violent Crimes. It's a great song. It's a little overhyped, I think. I think it's cute. It's adorable. Only one did it better. Ghost Town is a certified classic, though. So I'll put Ye as a C tier. Ye is a C tier. It's average. Then we got 808s. Based on influence alone, it could be S tier. However, based on enjoyability, I don't think I could rate it that high. 808s it's had a bunch of great songs on it. Say You Will, Heartless, Amazing Welcome to Heartbreak, Love Lockdown, Streetlights, Bad News. But it was really commercial, and I'm going to mention the same for Graduation, that it was really a really commercialized album and moved way further from what Kanye is normally does, and says, here's this concept. I'm going to throw it out the window because I'm taking a new art. And perhaps the spontaneousness of Kanye's discography is what makes it so good. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work in terms of 808s because it's just too simple. The sounds don't really... I think my problem with it is that the production is a little low. Is a little too low. So I'm going to give 808s a B tier. It's not too bad. It's not great. It's pretty good, though. It's pretty good. Late Registration is an A tier. Probably in front of The Life of Pablo, I would say. You know what? I'm making a quick change. I'm going to take Kids See Ghosts and move it down to A+ tier. And the reason is that I was thinking about it, and I think that Kids See Ghosts is simply too short. Like how I said mentioned earlier that if Kids See Ghosts was longer, it would rival Dark Fantasy. That's the problem. It's too short. It's way too short. If it was longer, it'd be so good, but it's 20 minutes long. What enjoyment are you going to get out of that? Nothing. So, Kids See Ghosts is in high A tier. Late Registration is right behind it, and then Life of Pablo is down there in the A tier. Then you have Watch the Throne. This is an album and a half. I'll tell you that much. Normally when people think of Watch the Throne, they think of No Church in the Wild, Ninjas in Paris, and Otis. But they always leave out That's My Bitch, or Welcome to the Jungle, or Murder to Excellence, or Who Gonna Stop Me, or Made in America. The entire album is amazing, and that's why I put it in high A tier right under Kids See Ghosts. It is perfect to play at parties with Ninjas in Paris and shit. This is really, really good. Now you have Graduation. A lot of people are going to knock me for this, because I'm not a huge fan of Graduation. And people don't like to hear that when I say it. People are like, what's wrong with you? Barry Bonds and Drunken Hot Girls are shit songs. I'm sorry. They're shit songs. And Big Brother, everyone hypes it up. It's like, oh my God, it's so sweet. It's dedicated to Jay-Z. Oh my God, it's so awesome. I think it's overplayed. I mean, it's played out. My bad. It's played out. It's not that good. It's good. It's not that good. Like, oh, it's good. It's corny, I think. There's a bunch of other songs, though. Good Morning, Champion, Stronger, I Wonder, Good Life, Can't Tell Me Nothing, Everything I Am, The Glory, Homecoming. Those are good songs. But not good enough. I'm sorry. Graduation, you're going to have to be in a low B tier. Yeezus. I'm a big fan of Yeezus. Really big fan, especially ever since I started getting into more industrial rap, more experimental shit. Yeezus is one of my favorite industrial rap albums, but in terms of Kanye's discography, it doesn't match up that well. Like, I think the only reason I started liking Yeezus was because I really got into Death Grips and shit, and I was like, wow, this is like Yeezus. And I re-listened to it, and there's no skips on that album for me. But does it match up to other albums with no skips on it? Unfortunately, no, which means I'm gonna have to put it in a high B tier. Still pretty good. It beats out 808s in Graduation, and it's tailing right behind The Life of Pablo. So then we have College Dropout, which is the album that gives me so much problems because I always switch between whether or not Dark Fantasy is his best or College Dropout is his best. So I'm going to put College Dropout in the S tier as well. Jesus is King is D tier. It's not now I personally enjoy it, but it's nothing. It is nothing compared to his discography, and that is unfortunate. Jesus is King is all right, but it's not that good comparatively. So our final results are we have Dark Fantasy in S tier, College Dropout in S tier, real close to each other. I have difficulty deciding which is better, so they're about equal. High A tier, you have Kids See Ghosts, which would have been an S tier had it been a little longer. Then you have Watch the Throne, Late Registration, and then The Life of Pablo as the last one in A tier. Then you move on to the B tier where you have Yeezus. Then you have 808s and then Graduation. Then in the C tier you have Ye, and then the D tier you have Cruel Summer and Jesus is King. So now we've done talking about Kanye. Stay tuned for next week, because next week we're going to have the classics talk. We're going to talk about a lot of classics, whether it be Nas, Rakim, Mos Def, Black Star, all of them, Biggie Smalls, Tupac, all the greats of the past, because we're going to take a nice relaxing look at the classics. What we're going to talk about right now, however, is we're moving on to the politics part, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot to get water, so I'm starting to get like dry throat, and it really sucks. But I must push on. So you see the title. Everyone knows how to read. It's Joe Biden, ladies and gents. You know what we're talking about. The absolute fucking joker that's running the Democratic Party right now. Unbelievable. Okay, so everybody heard his recent comments when he was talking to, who was it? Who was he talking to? He was talking to that, wow. Who was he talking to? Give me a minute. I'm going to find it real quick. Just give me one quick second. He was talking to the guy from the Breakfast Club. It was Charlemagne. Thanks, King Rio Bird. He was talking to Charlemagne the God, and it was so disappointing watching that entire thing unfold when he literally said, if you struggle picking between me and Trump, then you ain't black. To a black guy. Hey, guys, do you remember the last time that white people told black people what they can and can't do? It's almost like it's slavery. Hey, guys, remember a couple weeks back when I literally told everyone that Joe Biden was racist? Well, if you don't believe me now, then there's something wrong with you because Joe Biden is a bona fide racist. Come on. Okay, listen. This man is so old that he held office when the whole board, Brown v. Board of Education was going on. And that man was he's still trying to get it repealed in like the 70s. Joe Biden is not an ally of the Democratic Party. The Democrats missed out when they didn't pick Andrew Yang. The Democrats missed out when they didn't pick Bernie Sanders. Oh my God. The Democrats missed out when they didn't pick. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm just having trouble right now. My head hurts. Listen, it pisses me off, but they missed out when they missed out on Buttigieg. Okay? Like, there's so many candidates that they could have had that they missed out on. I don't know. I don't even know what the motive was. What made people think that Biden was a good pick? The man doesn't know where he is half the time. He doesn't. It boggles the mind. Because everyone could see it from the beginning. This man is old. He's senile. He's lost his mind. Andrew Yang was amazing. Who else was amazing? Bernie Sanders. Well, I'm not a huge fan of him. I certainly would have picked him over Biden and way more over Trump. I don't like Trump, guys. I don't like Trump. Get him out of the office. And the state of the country is just plummets further and further down. Now, there are certain comments against Trump. Like, a lot of when people talk about Trump, they talk about the wrong things. They always talk about the wrong things. They're like, he said something on Twitter. Stop being an idiot. And talk about real problems for once. The president tweeting on Twitter means jack shit. Who cares? Everybody tweets nowadays. What you should be talking about is how this man has been handling this coronavirus situation. Now, people have been talking about it. I'm not saying they haven't. But they're, again, pointing the wrong fingers. They're saying, Trump killed 100,000 people. No, he didn't. He didn't kill 100,000 people. He did not. The coronavirus did. Some people were unlucky. Other people went out when they weren't supposed to. And that's just the fact of life. Trump handled the situation poorly. I'll give you that. But it's up to the people to quarantine themselves and make sure that they're taking the necessary precautions to keep themselves and their families safe. If you are unable to do that, you cannot blame the president. You can blame two things: unlucky circumstances or your inability to follow directions. And there's always going to be the extreme libertarians who are like, oh, but I will never listen to the authority. Go get it. Just go get it. I will never listen to the authority. Saying that makes you as bad as the commies who say, oh yeah, anything the authority says, I must follow. Because at the end of the day, it's just compulsive behavior. You don't want to hear any side. You just want to know your own side. And it's so unfortunate that this is how it is, but it's just a reality of life. Okay, yeah, that was my cousin. She came through the room. My bad. Yeah. This is Alci gets interrupted, not Alci Rambles. But yeah. People like to blame Trump for the wrong things. And you can blame Trump for your problems, but you have to make sure that they're real problems that you're getting blamed on. Libertarians like to say, fuck the government. I'm not going to follow what the government does. And you're as bad as the commie tankies who say, all right, whatever the government says, I will have to follow. You're as bad. You're doing everything based on compulsory like decisions. You're a fool if you think that way. It's all right to be skeptical of government. Do not fucking disobey everything they say for the sake of it, because you're an edgy 14-year-old. Like, it's not cool. It's not. It's stupid, and you look like a buffoon. What can we do, ladies and gentlemen? What can we do? We're gonna have to wait for this election to be over. Another 4 years for Trump, unfortunately, because Joe Biden is not going to win. And if he does, I'll be extremely surprised if Joe Biden wins. If Joe Biden beats Trump, that'll be probably the world's greatest plot twist in the history of all time. Because it makes no sense. Trump is going to win another 4 years, and then maybe we can get someone competent in the office, like Kanye West. Otherwise, we're just going to have to wait. Anyways, it is kind of hard to just keep going without someone. I didn't have someone on this week. I might have someone on for the next podcast on this upcoming Sunday. So stay tuned for that. But for now, no one likes Trump anymore because of Corona. Well, a lot of people didn't like Trump in the first place, Abhinav. Like, there's still the crazy Trumpies who are like, oh yeah, Trump 2020. And they like blindly follow their fucking holy leader, their god emperor. But like, Trump is an idiot. He's a certified retard. Like, the things this man has done, this man has no idea how to establish diplomatic relations at all. So, like, argue how you want about, like, pulling out of the Paris Accord. Like, oh, there's no way to enforce it. Or, oh my God, you're killing the environment. We're not. But by pulling out of the Accord, you're basically saying, hey, I don't want to be friends with you idiots anymore. You guys are dumb. And he made it worse by forcing... See him as Yamcha. Like, he just makes it worse. Because he keeps... fucking up our diplomatic relations. The U.S. is as strong as it is, not just because of our military force, but because we're able to keep solid connections with several other countries. Like, the reason that we're so successful is because we're friends with a lot of people. And if people don't want to be friends with us, we make them our friends, whether they like it or not. But that's already that's only happened because we've gotten to the point we have by having those relations, and we need to keep those, because otherwise, people are just going to stop taking us. Either going to stop taking us seriously, or two, They just won't engage with us anymore, which has already happened a lot in Pacific nations, where when Trump pulled out of the Pacific Trade Treaty, this man ruined trade relations. He was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely gonna hurt. This is definitely gonna hurt China because China is they are entirely dependent on Pacific trade relations." Yeah, okay. By pulling out of the Pacific Trade Treaty whole shit, he didn't weaken China. He actually did the exact opposite. He established China as the centerpiece of Pacific trade. He made them the powerhouse over there. They now control almost all of the trade in the Pacific, whether it is from Indonesia, whether it's from Singapore, whether it's from Thailand, whether it's from Japan. And this is even bad for our allies down there in India, who are regional rivals against China, especially because they're trying to. There's this certain strait between Sri Lanka and India that is very important for trade in the Pacific, because, especially for Sri Lanka, but for in trade in the Pacific, because it is a strait in between these two nations. And now that China is setting up ports in Sri Lanka because they have the money, because they control the Pacific trade, it's fucking over India, who are our ally. So Trump's actions are not just bending over America and fucking us in the ass, it's also messing up our allies over there in the Pacific. So he's actually just devastated everything. Like, this man Trump came in and ruined literally everything. And people are like, "Oh, but the economy." Yeah, and he put tariffs on India for literally no reason. We are friends. What don't you get about that? America and India are buddies, and he was like, the tariffs on India because they're next to China, so they must be friends with China. You fucking idiot. You idiot. Oh my goodness gracious. This is painful. It's painful to see unfold. It really is. And this man is going to be in office for the next 4 years, and it really boggles the mind. So painful. Oh my god, I lost my train of thought because of it. China is buying out lots of land in Africa as well. Because essentially what China's doing is exactly what the British did to them, which was establish trade companies all over the world. Because China is trying to reestablish themselves as the economic powerhouse of the world. Because for over 16, actually more, thousands and thousands of years, China was the economic centerpiece of the world and that changed around the shift started in around the 1600s, but it really changed in the 1800s when Europeans figured out, hey, we don't have to trade with them. We can just rape and pillage them. And that's what they did. And then the trade region became North American Eurocentric trade. And China really wants to regain that economic centerpiece. But Trump is ruining it. Trump is making them stronger by the minute, and they're most likely going to overtake us, economically speaking, if we don't do anything. And idiot Trump supporters are like, but the economy is good. So what? At the expense of who? At the expense of people whose living conditions have decreased as a result of Trump's terrible decisions. As a result of us being looked at as absolute idiots by the rest of the world. As a result, the economy is good. Okay. Whatever. Yes, tax cuts, guys. Oh my god, Trump did the tax cuts. It's so good for us. But then you break your leg, go to the hospital, and now you're bankrupt because they had to do surgery on you. How come in France, where the healthcare is, people always say, "Oh, look at the survival rates of cancer with treatment. How are those?" Like in the U.S., it's 90%. If you have cancer, you have a 90% chance of survival. Does any other country compare? No, you're right. The U.S. has the highest survival rate of cancer. What's the next one? Oh, a hospital in Canada? Well, what's the survival percentage on that? 89.5%? So you're saying so what you're telling me is that the people who get it for free only have a 0.5 less percent chance of living? Is that really the trade-off? The trade is that such a big trade-off? Oh my god, I'm spending my entire life savings on my cancer treatments because I have a slightly higher chance of living than if I got it for free in fucking Canada or Australia or France or Britain. Are you serious? Is that really the argument? It's not an argument. It is not an argument. The US does not offer that much more with the money than any other country with a free healthcare system. I think we should model our healthcare system based on the French healthcare system. Why? Because they do it the best. The French do it the best. It's free. You have extremely high chances of surviving several health conditions. But I have to wait in a line. I don't want to wait in a line. You wait a week to get diagnosed. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. There's a really slim chance that say cancer, for example, develops that quickly in that week. Okay? It's a worthy trade-off. You want to know why? Because I would rather wait a week to get diagnosed for cancer than spend $4 million on chemotherapy. The American healthcare system is bugged, and it needs to be fixed. And Trump and his supporters have no interest in doing so. None. How about the housing crisis? How the prices of houses are rising up, and it's not just in America, it's all over the world. I'll give him that. But what are we supposed to do about that? We're just supposed to leave it? No, build a wall. Because immigration has been such a big problem for the United States, right? It's a huge problem. I'm not for open borders. Build a wall, whatever. I don't give a shit. But does that take precedent before the citizens of our country? Must the citizens of our country suffer? Must the citizens of our country suffer because you want to keep citizens of another country out? It defeats the purpose. If the reason you are keeping foreigners out of our country because you think that they'll harm the citizens within the country, harming the citizens within the country by keeping those foreigners out does not change a thing. You simply change the source of the problem. And that doesn't matter. If the problem still exists, by the end of it, what you did was useless. And there was no reason for you to do what you did. Trump has done nothing for this country but send it into dismay. Donald Trump has done good, but he has not done enough. And if Joe Biden wins, it's going to be even worse. The Senate is Republican controlled. Joe Biden barely knows where he is, and he's going to be trying to pass certain laws that'll never get passed. Never. Ever. Because the House is red. Do you understand the problem here? It's truly, we are in quite the pickle, and it's all a matter of time. Maybe we just have to wait long enough before things change for the better. But right now, we just have to hope. When you guys can vote, or if you can vote, go out and vote. Vote for your mayors. Vote for your representatives. Vote for your senators. Vote for everything. You need to see change. Whether it is in the power of the federal government to fix your problems or the power of your local government, it is important that you vote because you decide what gets done in where you live. If you love your country, you will vote because you want to see the world change for a better. Us as America, as the greatest nation on earth, need to set an example for the rest of the people living on this planet. We need to show that we have our shit together. We need to show that we know what we're doing. With bumbling buffoons like Trump or Joe Biden leading the country, we can't do that. Say what you want about Obama. Some people didn't like him. I didn't like him. Say what you want about Obama. Obama was a unifying voice. He didn't polarize the country until maybe later in his presidency, but he was a unifying voice. People took him seriously. And he was a serious candidate. With a clown like Trump in office, you cannot take him seriously. It's impossible. He's polarized the country, and people like to say, "Oh, it was the liberals who did it. It was the feminists who did it." No. Donald Trump's campaign completely polarized the country. Entirely. And made the rest of America look like fools. All right, let's start wrapping this up. You can hear in my voice that I'm just dying. So I'm gonna rant a little bit about Julius Caesar, cause why not? Julius Caesar is an example of a dictator who was good. A lot of the times when people hear dictator, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so bad." Oh my goodness. Oh my God, it's so bad. It's a dictator. Oh my God, nobody has rights. Julius Caesar was a great leader, and a lot of the people who lived in Rome when he was in power really loved Caesar, so much so that there were hundreds of riots in the streets of Rome, Illyricum, Gaul, Hispania, all because they killed Caesar. And the virgin senators who killed Caesar were like, only did it because they were like, "Oh, I'm afraid that Caesar is going to become too powerful and is going to be another king." Okay, so let him be another king. You know, like the most ironic part about that was that directly after Caesar died, Rome changed from a republic to an empire. Take that, you fucking idiot senators, you dumbass fools, you buffoons. It backfired on them entirely. But whatever, it happened. What you should take away from this is Julius Caesar, if anyone talks crap about him, slap him in the face, because Julius Caesar was the ultimate Chad. Okay, shut your face, Abhinav. Julius Caesar started a civil war, but it was for the good of Rome. You want to know why? Because after he won it, the Republic was more unified than ever. Everyone loved him too. And just because the Republic fell, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Because then you had the glorious Roman Empire, where under Trojan Emperor, it's not Trojan, is it? No, it's not Trojan. It's Emperor Trajan. Emperor Trajan. You saw the empire at its greatest extent, and it was glorious to look at. It was glorious. It's amazing. And the empire did so much, and Julius Caesar brought so much. He even did I'm pretty sure he's the one who really did the welfare system of Rome with the grain thing. What's it called? Rome, the grain. Yeah, Trajan. The grain dole. So I'm not saying that it was Julius Caesar didn't invent it. He expanded it like a lot. And it was amazing because it was basically a welfare system. It was a social safety net. And it really helped those people who were really in need. And Caesar was the one who really expanded it. Or he didn't expand it, he stabilized it rather. Made it more accessible to the people who need it. He was generally loved by the public. So the virgin senators who killed him are just the worst ever. They're just the worst. Can't trust nobody around these parts. TLDR. Julius Caesar was a total Chad. Pay some respect to him. He deserves it. I love Julius Caesar. He deserves everything. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in today. That concludes today's Alci Rambles podcast. I'll see you next week. Where we're gonna talk about classics and the classics of the rap industry, and I'll mention some other